Okay. Yay.
Hello.
Oh, live. Q Jack.
Hello, and welcome
Hello.
back to another episode of Let's Drone Out. Tonight we are joined by our lovely moustache, Stephen.
Hello, good evening.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
I'm trapped in the boot of someone's car, Cole.
Help me! Help me!
Cole is coming to us
And-
live from a little bit of work he's been doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I am Bright Till I Fly. Did you like Toby with a snake? I don't know who Toby is. Or do you mean Tony with a snake?
Turkey with a snake.
I'm Bright Until I Fly. Hello.
Is that a LARPing reference?
What snake?
Oh,
No, you lost us, mate. We need more details, Tailspin. That's too cryptic.
Oh,
We're not into your QAnon speak here.
I know. We can change glasses though. If you want. I forgot I had them on. I do apologise.
And this
Oh.
week on Let's Drone Out, we are
Car noises with Cole.
Car noises. Oh,
Oh, I was going to say I've got like the cutest little power supply that someone made, where they put one of these little boards into a 3D printed case, and it's so small. It runs off an XT30, or it's got a USB power delivery port in the back. It just arrived before the show, and I'm monkeying around with it. It's like 30 quid. The display's way too bright, which always happens with cameras, but it's got a little LCD and it's got a potentiometer, a little clicky one, rotary encoder there. And it's got a switchable output, so you don't have to just fry stuff. You can actually change the setting and then bing, turn it on, little LED comes on when the output's on, which is nice.
Man.
Yeah.
Is that from like my life was that ever changed when Frank got me my power supply? Because he was sick of me testing stuff, and then all of a sudden the bench power supply would give out.
I mainly just need stuff to power up an ESC and flash it, or to power up a VTX and flash it. So it's nothing fancy. It only goes up to 35 volts, so it's not enough for the 10S rig. It's not even really enough for the. Does it do 8S? Yeah, it's kind of do mid-cell voltage on 8S, but it's good enough. It's just something that's configurable, so I can go down to like 8 volts if I've got a 2S capable board, and still be able to give it a bit of a spin. And it's a 3D printed case in the UK, by the way. Test Clips made it. So it's really cute. It's so small compared to most power supplies.
Yeah, mine takes a bit up on the bench, but I don't think I could ever live without it now. I'm very attached to it. Curry, it appears that you've had a little bit of a change around in your room.
it's utter chaos, quite frankly. I decided I needed a clear out, which involved that piano coming upstairs, which means all the stuff that was in all that has been displaced. So we've got like what we got? We got the amps over here. That's not in the right place, and it's all okay there. 3D printer, and then we've got like storage boxes, which isn't great. And then there's a giant robot in the way, and then there's new shelves there. But if we could see down here, there's floor space. It's clear. It's amazing.
Outrageous.
I know.
It
And now
doesn't
we've got
feel that way.
wings up
Is it-
there.
Is it going to feel better once everything's got like a 1/4 inch of dust on it? Are you just waiting for it to settle down?
No, I mean I'm only midway through. There's much to do. I need those boxes gone. So I need to sort through, find homes for things, which means getting rid of more stuff. So yeah, it's a bit of a disturbing background for people used to seeing other things. Sorry.
Cole, I muted you. Driving noises.
I mean, you say disturbing background, but like we get to see whether Jack's made his bed or not, and I've just got a huge heap of crap. So I think you're still in the lead in terms of backgrounds.
I'm
Are
winning
you
because
upset about the piano?
a Mr. Garrison and a Buffy. So what about it?
Are you upset about the piano being moved into the RC space?
Not really, because I was the one that liked the piano. The piano was downstairs as a bit of a sort of feature. Everybody sort of used to tinkle on it when we first got it, which is about 10 years ago. It is a Yamaha electric piano, so you don't have to have the hassle of like it being noisy. So I can just turn around and play it if I want to, instead of having to faff around and go downstairs and plug headphones in.
Do you have a cape so you can do your midnight Rick Wakeman sort of moments?
Do I have a cape?
Yeah.
I don't have a cape. I feel I'm missing out now. Do you have a cape, Stephen?
No, but I play electric guitar, which is less of a cape-related instrument, although there are some aficionados who go that way. For me, it's more like standing at the window and maybe I put a fan on to blow my mustache,
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
No capes. The capes have gone. It's looking very light in Jack's room. Have you got the sun coming into you or something? Is it annoyingly coming through the window?
Outside. Yeah, I haven't fully closed the window.
I've never seen it so illuminated before. It's a bit disturbing. Normally you're just in this dark shroud and there's this tiny little illuminated Jack in the middle.
No. It's not been...
Go ahead.
No, carry on.
I was just going to ask you what you've been up to, that's all.
Not too much. Kind of been doing a lot of bench and repair stuff. Digby Dan's had the kids for the last couple of weeks, and I hadn't really been invited out to fly with anyone. So
You mean he's looking after Tony?
I think so.
Right.
Speaking of my darling wife, I did complete the
Brain.
the X class, that's it. The X class. And show you what unfortunately happened to it.
What happened? Oh, did he bin it?
Do you want photos of the outcome first?
We want
Yeah.
the full narrative.
No.
So was this the test flight after you did the build?
He was
Or was
racing
this a race?
it, so let's
That's fair.
assume the worst.
After the finish the build. Unfortunately, it's not. It's in the worst format, and I don't know whether.
What's in the worst format? I mean, is it in a compromising angle?
No, I mean,
Is it an up the skirt shot of a crash quad? What? I don't understand.
no, it's.
Can you see Tony's balls?
It's an X-rated X class.
No, it's in WhatsApp. That's the problem. So, if I click on the wrong thing, I dock everyone. So, this is the video. We're in the field. Tony's
Alright.
got his
Successfully
X-Class,
takes off.
flying it about. Believe it or not, he's not sat in that garden picnic chair. He's got a camera on that. Flying about, lovely.
Sounds like it's making a really funny noise, but maybe that's
It's a
just
bit
the
It's a bit
the
of a wobble on the
microphone.
corners.
Whoa.
Oh, there it goes. And
And
she's
then
down.
all of a sudden, flip of death.
When
That's
ESC crapped out.
Um,
Come on, he must have plugged in a battery and seen what happened, took the props off, and give it a little whiz. Did he?
I mean,
did he
on
do
the
any-
face of it, it didn't look that bad, but of course these
Yeah.
things have a lot of weight and inertia behind them when they come down, don't they? So is it arms snapping, or have we got an after pick?
we think it might be that might have something to do with it.
Bit of a delam. The motor just ripped off.
Delamination.
Yeah. So he's got arms, and then
That's
he's got.
terrible.
They've relied on some sheet carbon for our audio viewers to hold the motors onto the arms, and it looks like that sheet carbon straight up delaminated and just ripped straight through.
Yeah,
Was that the maiden flight?
Yeah, I don't know whether I am supposed to be sharing this with you, but yeah, it was just
Was this an early version of the frame? Because
yeah, it's still. I'd like to point out in defence, it is a prototype. So I think
that's what
they
frame
might.
design's all about. You got to fight
Yeah,
that
supposed to
balance
crash.
between weight and strength, and sometimes it ain't strong enough.
Yeah, so I think that might be changed to metal. So, or failing that, it's just carbon fibre is a sort of tricky vixen, and you get some parts that are good carbon fibre, and you get some parts of other carbon fibre that isn't as well. The layers aren't adhered because you are kind of the
It's a
process
composite
of
material.
composite material, and you are soaking and trying to impregnate it with
I suppose if you're being fancy, you'd get some like SLS, like aluminium end stops for that, right? And just put the motor mounts on aluminium mounts. But that would probably make it bloody expensive to fabricate.
Well, previously it was what, aluminium arms and mounts that clamped around the arms, wasn't it? And they were fairly simple. But is this the idea of saving weight or making more streamlined?
I don't know. I'm not part of the design process. I just kind of built what was given to me. So, and it appears that the thing is like the ESCs and the flight controller, like everything's kind of been brought back to real sort of like basics, and we might have a little look at the Black Blocks log if it works and saved, because it's got like a little bit of flash memory on there, and hopefully that should tell us more. But personally, I think it would have been much better if we had a 360 camera on there for a bit whilst
100%.
testing, so that you can sort of look at each motor or double up the GoPro so that you could kind of see on both sides what's what.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's a shame. It's easy to laugh at Tony, but it's a shame to see something like that happen. And I hope the rest of the quad escaped unscathed, because something that heavy coming down tends to not just damage one thing.
Yeah, I mean, it broke all the props, and that's £50 worth of props.
Yeah,
and that's just what is visible.
He must not be a very happy camper, is he?
No, it wouldn't be, but these things happen, and I don't know whether I was supposed to talk about it on the show or not. Hopefully they don't mind. But it's kind of sad because, like, I built it to like the best of my ability, and it was quite a challenging build, and I took my time and sort of like moved everything around to how I would have, the best sort of like configuration I could make, and sort of, added connectors, added tape, so things are able to be changed out quite quickly and replaced and like sort of like tested. But yeah, I mean, I even had to like make, connectors to change from those connectors to XT60, so that at least the batteries will be able to be charged and stuff.
Was that the 8150s or whatever they were using?
150s, yeah.
Something funky.
Yeah, they're big. I mean, the cooler the void of like trying not to plug them into each other, the battery explodes, is unbelievable. And you guys have witnessed I mean, I don't know whether I want to show it on the show, but like at least he talked about it. It's on my windowsill. But I did start building the cigarette discarded vape batteries.
We saw the dodgy battery connectors.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you soldered
glad
them.
this is going on in Jack's house and not ours.
Uh-huh.
So
Let's see
How did-
it. Let's see it.
Let's throw up the picture, because the thing that stood out to me was like, those aren't nichrome strips. How the hell have you stuck these together? What's going on there?
I strip wire in set places, and then solder them on those bits.
Sounds fine.
You can technically do solder on those instead of the little
Yeah,
point
I mean that's
welds.
As long as you're
Yeah.
real quick.
Yeah, because there's you know, the sort of, I can't remember what they call it, the fire paper or whatever it's called. So that protects the cell from the heat. Because obviously it's stuffed into like a little tube that's like drawing a shit ton of current, heating up a nichrome wire.
Any tricks to like getting the solder joint right first time and not overheating the cell?
No, just be quick, really. Big flat, you know, thinner gauge wire really would have been like the ultimate thing. But obviously, we want to kind of draw a good bit of current
Well,
out
you've
of
got to
it.
heat up the top of the cell as well, haven't you, to get
Yeah.
connection? So
Yeah,
get
I
good.
don't. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it really, because like obviously each one of those batteries is 550 milliamp hour. So like, you know, that's half an amp for like you know, like half an amp for 1C, I believe, is the math. Sorry if my math isn't great. So
Sounds about right.
doubling them up is like you can draw 1 amp out of them. And then obviously that, because there's 4, technically you do 2 amp. So, but I don't know whether that's continuous.
So they're only
And
500 mar cells then.
yeah.
That's
So
weird. What size are the cells?
what, like physical dimensions?
Yeah, they're like
Well,
1450 or something tiny.
they are small. It would mean measuring them, and I
Mm.
don't have one to hand.
It could be tricky to find a quad that's going to fly at 2 amps. Is the only worry there.
That's why I was thinking maybe a wing.
Yeah, with a run up and like a hill to launch it off, so you don't have to get that launch fright.
Yeah.
Are you sure you
I've
can
gotta
only
go.
do? Are you
Sorry.
sure they can? They're only good for like a 1C discharge then?
I don't know.
Oh, this is true. I mean, 1C is normally the charge, not the
Normally
discharge.
you get 10C out
Discharge.
of the discharge.
I mean, they're not very good, but
Yeah.
one would expect. Let's say you got 5C out of them. That would give you, 5.
So I bought a bunch
10C
of.
give you 10.
I bought cheap lithions from GMB. There's 2 classes. There's the Sony VTC6 based ones, and then there's the you get what you get. And the get what you get ones, they say can do up to 10C. So 2500 mar cell is good for 25 amps draw.
I was watching a video on YouTube of someone I think that was messing around with them, and they were having a really hard time on a quad, at least, just even to get to a hover. I can't remember what I was watching though. It was I forget what it was, but I think they had to put so many of them together just to get enough.
Yeah.
Just to get enough to hover.
It's a total lottery as well, because there's no guaranteed quality in any of this stuff. It's all just total unbranded cells. They come with like dot matrix printing on a bunch of plastic shrink wrap, and that's all there is to identify them. They're just, could come from anywhere.
It'll be a fun test to do, and again, I'm just thankful that they're in Jack's flat, albeit on his windowsill, and not anywhere near me. Just when they burst into flames.
Yeah, I'm afraid of batteries. I would rather them be at Jack's than mine.
Yeah, it seems like the place to put all the dangerous stuff.
What a charitable crowd we are.
Jack seems to know what he's doing, and
he works right next to a window, so worst comes to worst. It's out there.
What could go wrong?
Just fling it.
Fling it out onto a car. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea where that came from. I do not know how something managed to burn so hot that it melted through your windshield. Not a clue.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me.
The Shaggy defense.
Yeah, we're getting suggestions of Fogstar for good ion cells.
Oh yeah, Caroline Tyler, who is
Caroline
doing a
and
video on building those. I honestly think
Cerberus
that
saying
for the
the same.
trouble Jack's gone to, doing research and checking these cells out, he probably just could have burned like a fiver and picked up some dirt cheap cells online. Every
Oh
single
yes, but
RC
then
car
it
I've
wouldn't have
got
been as
comes
fun
with-
because
well,
the whole idea of this one is finding old vapes, disposable vapes, taking the battery out. Like I don't know what this looks like. Jack wandering around the streets picking up old vapes. and
you know what I
putting them
mean?
in
Like
bags.
every RC car comes with some like piece of crap cell like these, and they've always got Dean's plugs, those awful plugs that are just like really easy to short. And so put XT30s on them. But yeah, they're just two a penny these. I think they're like £3 each online.
But if he did that, it wouldn't have been the fun project of finding batteries. That's the only issue.
Yeah.
Well, so I've been in the process of repairing 2 old camcorders from the 90s, and I ripped apart the viewfinder on the one, and I found basically a broken cap that spewed out a bunch of nastiness and basically corroded a chip next to it, or at least the whatever. And I went to this random electrical shop, basically the only electronic supply store anywhere near where I live that actually has like little components and caps and resistors and all that good stuff. And I'm pretty sure he was the shop owner, but he was actually saying the same thing. He's like, hey, those disposable vapes? Those have rechargeable lithium-ion batteries in there. He's like when I find, he actually said that one time he found one, and I guess he was trying to do something with it and charge it up. Well, apparently, his thought process was moisture got in and it wasn't good, and he put however much current through it trying to charge it, and it just got so hot so fast that he basically almost burnt himself, and just had to throw it as quickly as possible because it could have been very dangerous. So it's
I'm sure there's a lesson in there
seemed
somewhere.
like a risky maneuver.
Yeah, and once again, this is why these batteries are in Jack's flat and we're not doing it. Jack can be the danger man.
Yeah. So any views expressed in this podcast may not reflect the views of others.
Also, Rule 0, don't be on fire could get broken here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Exactly.
the calls for a little Rule 0 right there. That's a slapping rule.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit alarmed because it's one of those things you do because you can do it, but I'm much more pragmatic, and I think just because I can do it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to do it. Like there needs to be some kind of system of values that steers me to that conclusion rather than just it's on the table as an option.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I think it makes for an interesting YouTube video, although Jack's very bad at actually producing videos. So we'll see how that goes.
So yeah, just wait another 7 or 8 years, and Cole will let us know when the edit's ready, right?
Well, you know what's funny is for all the experiments and odd things that Jack does, if he did make content for all of it, I think he'd be onto something with it. Yeah.
There's one word in there that's doing a lot of lifting, Cole.
If.
That's
Many ifs.
That's breaking under the strain. That if.
Yep. That's true. That is very true. But it all has to start with an if or a why, I guess. I don't know.
Absolutely. Very true.
Yeah. Where did Jack go?
I think he is, feeling the call.
Ah. Gotcha.
Just normal stuff.
So how did
I-
your day's shooting go? Sorry.
So go ahead, Cole.
It was good. Just back at the baseball stadium. Well, we were doing a bit of behind the scenes of these baseball players. It's actually a bunch of like pro baseball players that are, or I guess maybe ex-pro baseball players, or they were pro out in like South America and like Latin America and stuff, and they've come over to Canada and they're playing, and yeah, a lot of these guys are from like Panama, Dominican Republic, like Colombia, and basically we're kind of following them around, and you know, they're basically some of the stars of the team. So we're following them around, day-to-day stuff, and then a little bit of practicing on the field and some stuff. But it was pretty cool. I got to fly the drone again today, and I was chasing some guys around the diamond, and just a little bit of throwing, a little bit of catching, a little bit of hitting.
Are you lining up the timing better now? Because last time you were like cursing how difficult it was to like track stuff that was happening.
Yeah, I started to get it actually, which was really cool because so there was the three things that we did today was was it 3 or was it 2? Let me think. So it was guys basically just playing catch, and then one guy hitting the ball and then catching it. And I was able to actually get the timing where you sort of see the guy lining up for the throw, and then I'm basically like in line with the ball. I was basically like neck and neck with the ball, like almost like in sync with it, and it looked pretty cool. Then you see the guy catching it, and I was.
Do you have a signal or something, like a go signal that you've organized? How does that work?
So, well, the director basically said, like, I tell the director, hey, like, you tell the guys what to do, and I'll tell you when I'm ready. And then, I mean, they're playing catch, so it just kind of a back and forth thing. This is more of like a B-roll, sort of like just like footage to cut in between stuff. And I basically time it where I'm like, okay, I'm in the goggles. I see the one guy through, and then the other guy's going to catch it. So I line it up so that before the guy catches it, I'm ready for him to throw it. So that, it's all a timing game. It's all just like you kind of have to just feel it out and get into position before they're going to do the action that you want to catch, and then get the kind of time it up that way. One of the things that was actually really cool today was one of the hitters. I was chasing him running the bases, but I was staying really low, which looked really cool because I'm kind of like low but as the ground behind him. He's like, running to the other bases, and I'm just kind of tracking him, following him through, and yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I looked, I looked at it back on the GoPro on my phone. It looked pretty sweet, so I think it's gonna turn out well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine the timing's got to be difficult. Like you've got to be hovering in exactly the right place, so you've got the angle lined up, but just like holding it, like cramping up a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm let's just say this: I'm definitely honing in on my hovering skills with FPV, because normally you don't really just hold it in one place, like you kind of whip it around and stuff, but it's a little bit of a different game when you're kind of you're on call for making sure that you start when you have to, so you kind of have to almost just those tiny micro adjustments where you're like, okay, I'm staying here, I'm staying in one spot, I hear the director saying 3, 2, 1, then I see the guy go, and then I go. So it's I was finding I was getting about 5 or 6 short takes per battery, maybe like 6 or 7. So it's pretty fun. I quite enjoyed it today. I got some shots that I think are going to be really usable. Last time there was some, maybe like, I would say maybe like 30 to 40% usable shots. This time I'd say it's probably like more 70 to 80% usable shots. So definitely, just like anything, like the more you do something, you're gonna feel it out and get better at it, right? So.
All right. Well, we'll be waiting for the ESPN contract to drop. Let us know.
Yeah, I'll just show up with my analog goggles and be like, "Hey guys, I'm a professional."
And don't worry, in case I hit any of the players, I bought 3 spare drones.
Yeah. If you could just sign this release form, please.
Right.
Yeah. You guys been doing any flying at all lately?
I did. I went out on Tuesday to test these new Express LRS PWM receivers from Radio Master. If you happen to have some subscriptions to FPV channels on YouTube today, you would have noticed.
Boom.
Everyone's review videos dropped at the same time again.
The embargo.
Because
Are
it's
they
Radio
ERS? I thought they were just Radio Master.
They're ERS Radio Master PWM receivers.
Yeah.
So I tested 468 channels. I'm not blowing my own trumpet, and no offense to anybody else, but I did notice that all the other reviews I watched, they all did it on the bench, and no one went and flew anything. I went and flew something, and I even cut my thumb on a prop.
Bleeding
Just
for the art.
demonstrating how hard I was.
Bleeding for the art.
I was barely crying. I was that brave. So that was fun, and I managed to completely wipe out a battery, so I had to glide a wing down, and
Sick.
I lost a collet in the field and had to find it again. That was fun. And
These are all tales of a hero. Good job.
yeah, it's you know, I don't like to say hero, but I think that's fair, Stephen.
Yeah.
And yeah, I flew around, and my old wings are still old, but now they've got modern stuff in them.
That's
They're quite good, and because Express LRS as well, you probably know, Stephen, that they've just done the release candidate 1, haven't they, for 3.3?
Yeah.
Which also introduces cloud building for people that got utterly intimidated and like, what the hell's going on when it built something.
LRS now with 70% less screwing around.
Yeah, and they've got S-Bus support, which I haven't looked at yet, and they will support PWM up to 16 channels now. And more importantly, a mix of, I believe, S-Bus and PWM.
Yeah.
So you can assign one to something.
S-Bus, they do some D, and they do that freaky protocol that DJI uses for their Ronin cameras.
Yeah, I was mostly ignoring the other
that.
2 protocols because I was like, who the hell uses SUMD?
I've seen it. It's what you see in the multi-protocol module, and you just scroll past it to get
I don't
something
know what
else.
that is,
right?
yeah. Okay.
On. The thing I really like about these new receivers is that they've gone and added VBAT telemetry as standard. So they've all got a little pad that you can just tack on a lead from your LiPo, and you get a LiPo readout. I find that really useful when you're putting them in cars, especially because RC cars, like, you just kill batteries.
That's how I accidentally murdered my battery, because I put it on the 4-channel one, which for this little Hornet wing, which was a completely manual wing, no nothing, no OSD or anything, and I set up the alarm to say if it drops under 10.2, then say the voltage. And I was blipping the throttle. I was going, come on, I've been flying for 15 minutes. And it's like, oh, it's at 10.5. It's going to hit it soon, guys. And then we got it, and it's like 10.1 volts. I'm like, brilliant. I was like, oh, did it recover? It's not saying it anymore. And I forgot to put the extra little field on to say, repeat this every 5 seconds. So I was like, maybe I just need to blip the throttle again. And then I just glanced under the goggles, and it's like, oh, it's 8.4. I better land it. And then I'm like, okay, we're going down a bit quicker. I'll give it a bit more throttle. I'm like, throttle. We're coming down.
I rewatched your Open HD as well.
Did you?
week. Yes. And how you got stuck in a bush and your maple leaf antennas. And I was just like, Cole now, so you can. He's your key to smuggling maple leaf related products.
I'm your what?
Must be Canadian, yeah. The maple leaf antenna.
Oh yeah. What, True RC or no?
Apparently, this is a company that gave away this design for nothing, but they do a directional antenna as well, which they sell. They haven't released the things for it, but yeah, the maple leaf is something you can just get the Gerber files for and just order it, which was surprisingly cheap, like under a $5 for like 5 antennas, one of which is now in that big hedge, so I can't get that back, but I've got 4 more. Yeah,
That's
no
cool.
problem.
but yeah, I think the Express LRS sounds like it's basically now a proper competitor to things like Crossfire that did do the old legacy protocols and things.
Yeah.
It feels
Which,
like with V3 they've got into that cadence. Like V1 was like hyper experimental. The only people using V1 were people soldering their own equipment up. Literally building, I mean, not soldering in receivers, but soldering the receivers themselves
bits
on
and pieces to make them. Yeah.
And everything was DIY. And then V2, you started to see the big names like iFlight, Maytech, all got on board and started selling stuff. And now every company really has their own brand when you get out to V3, and it's started to become mature, and it's become this kind of easier to use product. And we're just at 3.3 at the moment. 3.3 is going to drop with you don't need to have this crazy build it on your own computer system, which also opens up the gate for easier installs, like maybe using a mobile phone to flash the receiver and stuff like that, because all of a sudden you can flash it via Wi-Fi, and you could trigger that via a mobile phone client that just pulls down the bits and pushes it to something else on Wi-Fi. So I think it's gonna
and of course the last bunch of releases were radically improved on the fact that you didn't have to flash them. So because the Radio Master ones are on a sort of piece of firmware that hasn't been released yet, they're like, oh, you can't flash it yet. But of course you can still just go into the Wi-Fi, put your passphrase in. I could change all the channels around, set up my fail-safe positions without having to do anything. The other interesting thing they've got on that
as well, right?
Which ones?
You can change protocols. Yeah.
They've got wireless head tracking in 3.3.
Yeah.
Which is at the moment it's only supported on HD0 with a backpack. But I do remember that the rapid fire module had an accelerometer in, and I wonder if that can be used at some point. Will that get updated? Because that would be really interesting, since there's not many people with backpacks, and I've got a big slot on the wall and it's got pan tilt. Now I didn't use that one for you that didn't see the video yet, because it wouldn't fit in the car and I couldn't be asked to take the wings off because it's such a faff. But it's still installed.
I wonder if they make a standalone backpack that's just got like the world's cheapest accelerometer on there, because you don't need like a low jitter super fancy one if you're just tracking your head movement, do you?
No, I mean just going like that and that is not a big deal, is it? But that'd be quite cool if that can come out on more goggles.
Wireless trainer as well, I think, is arriving with the head tracking. So you can use you basically put a receiver inside an HTX radio, and then your buddy who's doing the training, they pass through to your radio. So they just connect to your radio like it's a model, and you have those channels come into your radio, and then you can select to bypass them or not bypass them. So you can buddy box using it as well.
Oh, that's quite cool. I didn't see that.
I can't get my rapid fire backpack to work properly, and I don't know why.
Didn't we discuss that you had the wrong module and it didn't have the extra ESP32 chip in it?
That's like an 82 ESP82 that Happy Model makes. I've got a spare one that I never used. If you want, Jack.
But Jack's got the white Beta FPV module, the 500 milliwatt system, and I think they put the backpack in from the 1 watt one, which was the black version.
Yeah, you're right, man.
Work on that
one. Yeah, that one don't have no backpack, governor.
That's why it don't work.
Not have a backpack either. The Boxer.
Oh, the inbuilt one should have actually. Yeah, if it's the inbuilt Radio Master module, that should work. Yeah.
Okay, I will try it again with this. Because I put an inbuilt one in. But
yeah, Curry is absolutely right, because I bought the white one and then I bought the black one as well. And I didn't just buy it to increase the power. I bought it because I wanted that backpack functionality that wasn't on the previous model. So
I will just I might buy the other S module. I might then donate this to Frank.
The old, the super cheap Happy Model ES24 one does actually have a backpack on. It's kind of a pig to use because it doesn't have an exposed USB, and you need to like move jumpers around to flash the backpack, but it's super cheap, and I have got the backpack working with that on one of my radios.
Yeah, I couldn't get that to flash because I had Swanee send me his stuff to like flash and get working, and then I set the dip switches to flash the backpack, and it just would not chooch. I don't know why.
Yeah,
And on its
it was a
first
pig to get
flash,
working.
yeah, on its first flash, I had to be like, yes, force flash, and then
Yeah,
as
there
soon
was like you
that
have to
worked.
press this button and then press another button, and it's not very friendly to dyslexics. I'll say that. Like the instructions are lots of ifs, ands, and buts.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a faff.
It did when I did it. It did feel very experimental, and I think I flashed the wrong target and had to go back with like an FTDI adapter and make it right and
Yeah,
all sorts of stuff. It was all a bit. What am I doing now? And spend a long time in Discord trying to.
I did that a while ago on autopilot because I saw that there was this. Oh yeah, wrong size error, flash repartitioner, and then I was like, oh, it's only for a TX or it's only for an RX, and I had to get out the FTDI and like recover. I think it was a receiver or something. Just got it out and FTDI'd it back. But luckily, like it's not so painful. The first couple of times, it's just like, what the hell am I doing? I'm going to break everything, and then you're like, oh, actually, no. It's basically all modern hardware is pretty much indestructible because there's always like a burned-in bootloader, and if stuff goes wrong, then the burned-in bootloader is always there. You just need to like connect the FTDI to it properly, or connect the DFU plug to it properly, and it just comes back. But the first couple of times is always a bit of a.
I can imagine.
Oh, I got the 3D printer back online after discovering that Failsafe had managed to fit with the most esoteric plug that he could find for the heater element in a slightly different esoteric variation to the one that the heater element supplier actually used. And I was just like, I wonder why there's this bit of frayed insulation around there. Oh, it's a 1x2 plug instead of a 2x1 plug. Like, so now I know all about Micro Molex, more than I ever wanted to know about Micro Molex. But the printer's up and running, and by God, it creates some impressive prints. It had been offline for a little while, and I've forgotten how good it was. But oh my word, it's stonking. So I've been printing off a lot of lipo covers. I'm going to be going to do a bit of bando flying with Failsafe and company next week over in Croatia. So been getting stuff ready and had a bit of a brown trouser moment where I discovered that every airline in the world abides by the IATA regulations, which say you could take 20 spare lipos, except for British Airways, which I decided to fly because I wanted to not deal with Ryanair, who'd make me mad. And apparently British Airways have a maximum of 4 because reasons. Everyone else is 20 and they've got 4, so I had to like get someone who's going by road and like rush up to them with a bunch of lipos and please take my batteries, please. And hopefully they'll be there.
I thought the airlines did it based on watt hours rather than number of batteries, because it's like, well, how big a battery?
So up to 100 watt hours, most airlines allow 20 batteries, and 100 watt hours is like it's like a 2 amp hour 6S or something freaking humongous. Let me just yawn something and check the watt hours on it. So,
eating on stream.
Cole just eating.
Thank you, Cole.
Oh,
so, like,
I didn't realize I got added to the stream now. Sorry.
I decided to add him in a weird moment.
Did you?
I've got, for example, a 700 mAh that's like a 5S, and that's 12 watt hours. So a battery that's like 6 times bigger than this. So a 5S that's 4 amp hour would probably be just about okay. So you can basically take X-class batteries, up to 20 of them. But there's no distinction until you get over 100 watt hour. And over 100 watt hour, you can only have 4 on any airline. But BA decide to say under 100 watt hour is also 4. Presumably because up to 100 watt hour, there's a gulf from stuff that's like a tiny Whoop battery that might be 1 watt hour up to, like house brick sized stuff that could be like a 4 amp hour 3 or 4S cell, which would be like 95 watt hour.
Can you buy an old shit laptop and fill it full of batteries and wire it up so it's a device that runs on all those
These are
batteries in
technically
parallel.
the required lipo cells for this HP Elite book. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
running
that's
on
what I would do.
it's running on a 48S 2P configuration, totally standard.
Yeah, just run that through the X-rays. They'll be like, "What?"
Yeah, true.
Do not press the power button. Power button. Wear these gloves.
Could you just buy a Ryanair ticket just for your batteries and hope that they can walk on themselves?
I'm not
Get
sure.
like a little.
I'm not sure.
That's not dodgy. I'm just going to put this backpack full of weird wires sticking out on a thing, and then I'm going to leave and take a different flight. No reason. That's fine.
Did anyone see a strange-looking gentleman with a beard?
And a mustache.
He was twirling his mustache.
He was
and
twiddling
laughing.
it like a villain.
Yeah, that wouldn't go down badly at all.
That sounds exciting though, man. It sounds like Croatia is going to be epic.
Yeah,
Yep,
I hope so.
that
There's a
would be-
mega bando there, which looks pretty cool.
I'm jealous. I'm very jealous.
Cole,
Well, you know-
stop eating.
Carl, stop eating. Turn your camera around. You're getting complaints about portrait video. This isn't TikTok. It's not a young person's thing. Sort it out.
If you're gonna treat it like that, do a dance routine. That's not dancing. That's not even dad dancing.
Stick torches on them.
So weird thing. So when I was flying today, Jack, I'm getting that video sync thing again, where when I give it throttle, my OSD elements are dancing all around.
What?
Maybe change where the
line goes,
negatives connected. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
I think something unkind
do an
words about
update.
your soldering quality, something.
I mean, mine. That's all I could think it is that my solder pad, where I soldered my camera ground.
Maybe that. Yeah.
I mean, Jack's squad, when I flew it, had absolutely crystal image quality, so I know he knows what he should do, and you're unlikely to have left like a spare yard of wire wrapped around the stack for no good reason, right?
No.
Yeah.
Maybe something just got dinged. Like he's been flying hard around concrete, hasn't he? Maybe he just dinged it.
Yeah.
Not this one so much, but I might have to just play around with the video sync test or the video sync level, because I don't think it's quite lined up in the middle. So it might be that, but I don't know. It's weird because it seemed to have been fine for a bit, but now throttle seems to be giving it to me, but only sometimes. I don't know. It's really odd. It's a bit odd, but
Builds don't always age well. Sometimes stuff just deteriorates.
Sometimes stuff just breaks. Like
Yeah.
stuff that used to fly well sometimes just goes. Like receivers go, cameras go.
I mean, it's brand new build. I've only had it.
I had my
I've only
favorite
just had
little
it.
toothpick that used to be amazing with like Predator Nano, and it was awesome. And over time, it's just gotten kind of crappier because I'm not doing big crashes, but it must have been crashed like 30 or 40 times, you know. And
Yeah.
eventually, stuff just gets a little worn down.
Yeah. I honestly don't even think it's like, I don't think it's anything like that. I think it really comes down to like something just really silly. I think it's really just like a setting thing. I mean, I also haven't updated to the latest firmware, so I don't know if maybe that might have something to do with it. I don't know. That's weird.
Mine did do it, then it stopped doing it, and now it's doing it again.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
If I can offer a small piece of exceedingly unhelpful advice, it would be join the cult, go digital, throw away your analog gear. Well, don't throw it away.
it's
but
not.
then
It's
leave
not.
it to
It's technically not analog. Well, is it, Jack? How does that work? Like it's onboard OSD on the flight controller.
Yeah, it's analog video.
Yeah, mate, it's analog video. Analog video is just a little bit flaky. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
useful on small stuff, but it's just now I'm on the second generation, right? I'm upgrading stuff that was analog that went to DJI, and now from DJI I'm going to move it to walk snail because it's just just as good as DJI, but is a little less crappy when it's around foliage, and the system seems to have a bit more of a future. With DJI, I had none of these issues with interference and stuff, but every now and then when you got flying close to trees and that, it would just kind of break down into a tile wall. But Walksnail seems to have solved that, so I'm at the point now where I'm thinking, this flying in Croatia, I've got a bunch of DJI systems. I know they fly okay, but I might just punt a couple of them over to Walksnail because I've got a couple of Walksnail boxes on the bench just by my old thumb.
Do you think it would be replicatable, like this the little analog thing? If I don't have props on, I could replicate it on the bench, or do you think it's mostly an in-flight thing, Jack?
Mine does it on the bench, but you've got the whole like Wi-Fi noise.
Without props, it's not pulling the amps though. That's the thing. It's normally like high ampage going through.
If you've got a patio table, just go outside, like find a table, belt it down to a patio table with some like luggage straps or something, and just rag it, see what it does.
I just move that ground wire first. I think it's that.
Yeah.
But
I did find that when I was doing the wiring, I needed to run like the yellow video signal wire over a different route to the power wires, and then everything was a lot better. Running them all together was a recipe for disaster. Sooner, I made them take different paths between the FC and the camera and the FC and the VTX. A lot of that went away.
Corey, what was the deal with the immersion RC power meter thing?
What was the deal? How do you mean?
Yeah. Well, how comes you finally got one? It's like a bit late.
Someone sent it to me and acquired it on my behalf. Basically.
Well, have you always wanted one?
No, I just I think it's like it's a tool everyone could do with and would find useful, but not necessarily everyone can afford. Because normally it's like, is my VTX working? And it's just a case of, if I just buy a new VTX, it's going to be a lot cheaper than buying this tool that could tell me if the VTX was bad or not. So, yeah, from that point of view. Also, if I'm ever testing a VTX and it's making these sort of claims about I'm putting out this much power, then I think it's very useful to be able to test it and say, actually, it is or it's not. Or it's
there are always question marks raised over the calibration of that, though.
There's question marks, yeah, but Immersion RC say they calibrate it next to a big professional super duper machine and it gets very, very close. It's never going to be spot on, but it's very close. So if we use the calibration things they've got because they do 5800 in little 50 hertz blocks, so you can get very close to the frequency you should be testing and decide if it's right or not. And the sort of things it's coming out with are things that match up with my sort of thoughts about what these things are like I'm a big fan of the Rush FPV VTXs because they're very clean, but I've always noticed on 25 milliwatts they don't seem anything to write home about. And when I tested the one, it was putting out like between 14 and 17, but when you put it into 200, it's much more.
I found those Rush VTXs, they would just go bananas sometimes and go into like race mode all the time, which would put them on a super low power. I'd have to fight to put them out of race mode.
They had this problem. I remember doing this because I was upgrading Betaflight, and it's like Betaflight suddenly had a stricter interpretation between Smart Audio 2 and 2.1. And some of them saying, yeah, we speak Smart Audio 2.1. And then suddenly, when you told them to use 2.1, they would drop down to pit mode or race mode and stuff like that, and they wouldn't change channel. And then you move it back to Smart Audio 2, and instead of giving it a whole, the normal like dBm values, you just say I'm on value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it works perfectly all of a sudden. It was very strange.
Yeah, when it was in this special mode, it would just refuse to go. It would default to pit mode as soon as you powered on, and it would stay in pit mode until you
you can get out of it.
Disabled pit mode, which you couldn't do a lot of the time because pit mode was such a bad video signal. You couldn't see the OSD.
Yeah, you had to be this close to it. I honestly think it's the difference between I think Betaflight tightened up on their smart audio protocol in some way, and there was something in the Rush FPV stuff that wasn't
Slightly
quite right.
non-standard.
And as soon as it went past a certain level of beta flight, it went slightly haywire. And you're like, why has this suddenly gone wrong? It was working perfectly before.
Yeah. Other than that, quite a nice little setup. Like they had shielding on them, they had a can over it. Most of the VTXs they didn't put cans over, and I think that helped them keep a really clean.
Yeah, the reason I like them is I can wire stuff up, and I don't have to be all that careful about it. I can pretty much just hook it up to the power supply from the flight controller at whatever voltage coming through, and I can use the 5-volt for the camera, and whatever cleanup they're doing on their VTX itself seems very, very good. So it's always a very clean picture. I'm not so much worried about how far will it go. I'm more worried about what's the picture quality like, and that always seems very good, crystal clear on those ones.
Yeah, that must put your mind at ease knowing that having that sort of can over the top of it, protecting, delicate little resistors and everything.
It's the shielding as well.
Yeah, and the shielding.
If you've got a whole load of EMI from ESCs, then just gives it a bit more of a chance. I think they were the first people to do that, especially on the Whoop sizes, like down to the little 25 by 25 tiny VTXs, which they give you this tiny VTX that actually sat in a daughter board to fit on the 25 by 25. It was even smaller than that. It was like receiver sized, and even that would have a can on it, which it does help with physical durability, but seemed to be. They certainly had good signal, so I think it was probably helping that as well.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed with the Rush tanks. Fair play.
Yeah, I've seen some ones that look like it and are bad, and I can certainly tell the difference when I just put them on and I go out, and as soon as you get past about 500 meters, you just see this break up and noise starting to come in, and even it can be close up. As you've seen, if you hit full throttle and you start getting any disturbance on the screen, that's not a good sign. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, but like I was saying, right, where you've got the where you do punch outs and you up the throttle, and all of a sudden the build that you thought was clean on the bench suddenly starts to show a load of garbage. That's the one.
Yeah, what's happening? Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Is this your goggle hair, Cole? Is this what happens after some time wearing goggles over your head?
It's Canadian, not used to the heat.
Get out.
Nor am I. I've been melting.
I've rigged up a bevy of PC case fans that are all controlled off a tiny adjustable DC power supply. And they're sat just off to the side here, just over there. There's a wall of 120mm case fans tied together with cable ties. That's basically enabled my brain to function this week, because I felt like I was losing my mind. It was just so unbearably hot.
Yeah, for the warmth. I know. I've not been coping very well. Do you want me to on the sort of last few seconds? The worst part of the whole battery thing regarding the size is that the size has now changed. So they've got those batteries have now got even smaller. So I'm now having to scavenge older style vapes for their batteries, and I'm 2 batteries short for my 4S build. And I'm thinking,
they, strictly speaking, need to be matched cells, because I'm pretty sure the instant you take off, you're going to drop at least one of them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is they've been, probably highly discharged, because you've got people smoking, sucking on them, sucking the living life out of them.
Crazy addicts
With no sort of voltage protection. So I'm dubious of them all. All it's got to do is one flight, and I'm thinking, well, Curry, he's probably got a wing that we could stick that on and have a bit of a fly about, maybe. So maybe the meet up of Stephen, Curry, and I can happen.
I think
We
you should
got
put
the
it on
one
a 7-inch.
What about no wrong way?
But I do
the
highly
big one.
discourage anyone doing. Yeah, maybe depends on
We
the
could
amps.
use that one because let's face it, it felt a little bit like it was a bit spongy. I mean, it felt spongy before, and then I covered it in
Sponge.
what's it called?
Laminate.
Laminate. Thank you, Jack. And now it's still spongy, and it's like, oh, this is not handling the wind very well. And then the little wing was absolutely fine. I'm like, yeah, this is a bit knackered. I think probably it's only like 11 years old. It had one of its wings snap off and jump up and go over into a tennis court, which I had to climb up and go and retrieve this one time. Other than that, it's all perfect. It's only been crashed about 50 times.
Jesus Christ.
Sounds great. Jack first.
Yeah. No worries. Right, that's all we got time for. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out. It's been lovingly sponsored by our wonderful Patreons. I do highly discourage anyone who's making their own packs. Don't do it unless it's completely in a safe environment and you fully know what you're doing. So, do as we say, not as we do. And please take precautions. We have been joined by the lovely man with a moustache, Stephen.
Good evening and good night. Thank you to our lovely Patreons.
Yeah. Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Goodbye.
My buddy Cole. It's muted. Bye. And I've been brightened to life and light. Thank you, guys. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Thank you. Good night.
Au revoir.
Bye.